Hey guys, check this out.
Hello and welcome to Check This Out, a podcast where we take an analytical view of the media that appeals to us as individuals and why. I am Elle, your host, and with me today is special guest and enemy of the show, Aaron. If you would, please introduce yourself and tell us maybe a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I am no one of particular importance or significance for profession or anything like that. I just happen to have seen an inordinate amount of anime and quite enjoy it.
So you're in good company at least.
Yeah.
So now you're bringing something to the table that you enjoy and are passionate about. Could you talk a little bit about it in your own words?
Sure. The show, I think I already said it's an anime, but
Yep.
I'm going to be talking about the anime Black Cat, which is a action crime show about an ex-assassin, an ex-cop, and magical super her weapon in the form of a little girl, and their slightly existential adventures dealing with the creepy, totally not ex-boyfriend of the ex-assassin.
That does seem to be a little bit of a running theme in anime, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess whatever sells, eh?
Yeah. So certainly the creepiest case I have come across.
So, cool. I have my prepared list of questions designed to delve a little bit deeper into that enjoyment of yours, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Alrighty. So, question 1. Imagine that I was someone who had been recently awoken from a coma, or resurrected from being frozen in ice, or even some sort of inanimate object gifted malevolent knowledge of modern times and sentience. So essentially, I know what media is, but I've never experienced any. How would you explain Black Cat without comparing it to something that I wouldn't know?
It's a story he told through moving drawings that had and moving drawings and not an insignificant amount of music follows three characters as they learn about morality, and you get to see another world that's not quite the one you've just woken up to. So it might be good for compare and contrast in this metaphor that I'm taking too seriously. Yeah, I'm realizing.
That's fine. We've had that happen before, and it's always good.
Yeah.
So basically, along the same lines of how you put it in your own words to begin with, I guess.
Oops. Yeah, I guess.
It's all right. It just means that you've got a good explanation for anyone who's not like immersed in the whole like anime fandom and has to be aware of 600 different tropes that are going on.
Yeah, it is in some ways, at least from my somewhat biased perspective, given that it was one of the first ones I saw, a very entry-friendly anime. That's not to say you can't enjoy it if you know all the tropes, but beyond understanding that anime tends to be a little bit bombastic, and people tend to yell and emote quite visibly.
And for long
And
periods of time.
for long periods of time, and that guns are not necessarily superior or inferior to swords. You don't need much background in anime.
It's like, yeah, why was that guy holding a gun and now he's just pointing at his finger? Don't worry about it.
It's not quite that bad, but
But yeah, so it's kind of easy for anyone to get into, whether you're like new to the genre or the medium or a long-time fan.
yeah.
Cool. So, question 2. Hypothetically, our positions are reversed, and I'm guesting on your immensely popular and award-winning podcast. I've just answered the previous question with your response. What stands out to you the most?
I think the part of my response that would stand out to me the most is the moving pictures thing. I think that if I were the person frozen in the previous metaphor, I'd be like, okay, that's a little bit condescending. Though my more actual answer would probably be noting that it sounds like a character-focused show.
Or even if you were to take the moving pictures analogy a little bit further, in that it's not a standard, it's not like a movie or something where you're just going to see actual people.
Yeah.
So it's got that little bit of extra unrealness, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so question 3. So we can tell that this is something that you actually enjoy and care about, but what got you to give it a chance in the first place?
So I realize that I'm younger than you by a decent amount, but you are also from a different continent, so this may not be relatable. Back in my day,
I'm aging to dust already.
back when I was a young teen, you could, and I did. What's a good way to put this? Funimation's YouTube channel had many of their shows, all of the episodes, full episodes, legally available to stream. In English dubbed. Which, yeah, come at me, sub fans. Dubs are also good, especially if you're trying to watch them on a 720p at best, teeny tiny little phone. I think it was an iPhone 2 at the time.
Wow, I joked, but Jesus, that does make me feel old.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, so there was this time period, and streaming wars are now a thing, so this is still somewhat true. There's still quite a few full series on Funimation's YouTube channel and a few other anime distributors, but and I was sort of floating around watching an episode or two of different full series I found on there, and this one captured my attention. The opening was very, for lack of a better term, cinematic. It felt directed. There's sort of a dark noir, but with lots of colors aesthetic to the direction of Black Cat, which I found really compelling. I immediately fell in love with every character the series put in front of me, and I binge watched the entire thing from there.
So basically a random YouTube troll.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was specifically looking for an anime to watch, but yeah.
I mean, that's cool. That just shows there is something out there kind of for everyone. You just need to be willing to put the feelers out.
Yeah.
So, question 4. For some people, a sense of community and like-mindedness are integral to their enjoyment of something. To your knowledge, is there a community around Black Cat that you're aware of? And if so, what are they like?
I don't know how much active fandom there is, as in people who are still creating things here in 2021. But there is certainly a history of analysis of the show and a lot of history of people making fan art and cosplay and other sort of forms of enjoyment for the anime. The modern anime market. Oh my God. Again, I feel like I'm making myself out to be older than I actually am when I say that now anime is quite seasonal, but back then, especially because of the way imports worked on the earlier internet, you got the seasons of whatever someone got a license to, and you kind of got them all at once. So it very much was the sort of thing where people would stumble across a show, not necessarily like the watching it as it's currently airing fandom you might have for something that's more recent. But yeah.
Yeah, so no simulcasting parties.
Not so much. I suppose they may have existed around the time of the release, but it would have been very early for that kind of capability.
Is it the kind of thing where, like, if you went to a convention in costume, that it would be recognized, or is it sort of more obscure these days?
I think if you were cosplaying as Train Hartnett, who's the main character, you would probably be recognized, at least by, like, the older fans. You would probably be recognized by someone dressed up as Goku.
Fair. So I guess question 5. There are many aspects of media that resonate differently with different people. What was your favourite part?
My favorite part was watching and listening to I didn't write the name of the voice actor in my little notes document. The main antagonist for the series, Creed Diskins, is, as I sort of alluded to, obsessed with the main character and obsessed with his past as an assassin and his previous lethality in a almost lustful but mostly self-destructive way. And it is fascinating to watch him desperately try and reclaim that more violent person and lash out at Train's compassion, which is, I found very compelling and very intriguing.
I did just look it up quickly. Chris Patton, I think.
Yes, that would be the English voice actor who just has so much fun with the role. The Seiyu is also very capable, but
yeah, just because I thought if someone's going to be listening to this and then just screaming at us, it's like, who was it? Oh, why don't you know this? It's like, I'll try and head that off, although the emails have already been sent.
Yeah, oops. They're going to your email. You called me an enemy of the show. I'm gonna have to send some sort of hate. Sorry.
Yeah, fair. So question 6, following on from the previous question, what do you think would appeal most to the general public?
I think for the general public, there is something compellingly cinematic and specifically action cinema that is not necessarily unique to Black Cat, but very notable in its case. there are shots such as a character holding a sword to another character's throat, sort of panning out to use that silhouette to segue to a chapel building's top. And a lot of stuff like that I think is both familiar and really artistically executed in this case to sort of a general audience, especially an audience that doesn't watch a lot of anime.
So, like the cinematography and scene setting.
Yeah.
Cool. Because, I mean, then there's, like, the people that are complaining again about subs versus dubs. It's like, well, this is visuals. You don't need to have one way or the other.
Yeah. And both of the voice casts are excellent, is about as far as I'll dip my toe into that mass of questions and comments, and both are easily accessible, too.
Yeah. I mean, that is something that, like, the anime community does sort of rally around. It's the big fights over if you should watch it pure, or are you allowed to have even the subtitles show up, or do you need to wait for the translation because you're just such a noob? It's like, come on, like, everyone enjoy it. It's all good. Like, you get the same thing out of it.
Yeah. I won't go off on a tangent. Yes. And in this case, if you're curious, it's very... Oh, what's a good way of putting it? The subs and the dubs line up quite closely. There's not a lot of cultural context that you're going to miss either way. It's set in, like, Europe in mild mobster dystopia?
So Europe.
Yeah, Europe. I mean, I feel like there are less bounty hunters in actual Europe, but I haven't been there in a long time. So it may have been taken over by bounty hunters.
I have a feeling there may be some people who would think that, yes, that's a better government.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the themes of the show.
There we go. So, question 7. Say that I do end up enjoying this because of your excellent recommendation. What would be your number one follow-up? It doesn't necessarily have to be a sequel or anything, but what would I look to if I wanted more of the same afterwards?
There's nothing else that's quite like Black Cat, but the number one thing that I would direct you to next would be Blood Blockade Battlefront, which trades out some of the drama of traveling around as bounty hunters for being set in New York post-comic book apocalypse, but very similarly has some sort of compelling characters and a similar sensibility in terms of world building, and also speaks to that sort of more cinematographic action movie sensibility.
I'll have to make a note of that. I may put it in the show notes if I can find it out properly, but we'll see. Question 8. Sometimes our engagement with a piece of media comes from a position of relativity. Did you have a character that you specifically related to? And if you did, what drew you to them?
I think that of the characters, the one that I related most strongly to, or felt some sort of compelling bond to, that kept me very invested in the show and their ongoing adventures, was Eve, who is the youngest of the three main characters. She's kind of a manufactured biological weapon that's also sort of magic. But she's very unfamiliar with a lot of common sense. And she's very young. So she takes this much more naive and direct approach to the problems that the group encounters. But she's also trained as an assassin and raised to be a living weapon. And for a mobster, because again, mobster dystopia things are happening. So she's simultaneously aware and not aware of the world in very interesting ways that make her a really valuable third member of the cast. Yeah.
Kind of like an audience stand-in to have things explained?
Well, almost the opposite. Honestly, I resonated a lot with all three of the main characters. Sven is the oldest of the group. He's the only one that was initially a bounty hunter. He was a cop before that. And all of them are very aware of the mechanics of the world. He is the least tuned in to the more lethal side of it. So if someone needs to ask the questions to get the world explained, it's usually Sven. Whereas Eve, I don't want to spoil any direct plot points, but
is more in like a part of the world and therefore would already know?
In some ways, she solves problems very directly. She goes up to someone, frankly states her opinion, smashes them with her magic hair fists, and then shoots her magic guns at them if that's not quite enough. and politely he apologizes and makes sure they're not hurt once the situation has been resolved.
So, typical anime teen.
A lot more emotionally detached, but yeah, you're sort of getting there.
So, question 9. A lot of these types of interviews rely on the question of what would you bring with you to a desert island in order to get to know a person. But that's not this show. What we ask instead is to picture this scenario. You're on a deserted island with no hope of rescue, but food, water, shelter, and everything like that has been taken care of, so that you won't succumb before natural passage of time. You've also been provided with a single piece of media and the means to engage with it, and for you it is Black Cat. How frequently do you watch it, and how long would it take for you to be sick of it?
I think that I'd probably watch it in segments, and an episode or two at a time, and maybe repeating an episode. I think I'd probably try and watch it like once a week, maybe doing some engaging with it from the perspective of reading about it, or not reading, writing about it, or analyzing different aspects of it, the animation, turn off the voice track and just listen to the song, something like that. I am the sort of person that will eat the same food for a week straight because I discovered I like it. So it would probably take me maybe a year and a half to be thoroughly sick of it. Keep in mind, it's only 26 episodes. I think it might be less than that.
I mean, you're still beating the people who suggested movies to me. Because it's
Yeah,
like, oh, well, this is 2 hours. Well,
yeah, it's definitely a lot longer than a movie. It's not something like Naruto Let me make people angry. It's not something like One Piece where you could spend your whole life trying to catch up and still will be behind the manga.
Well, I mean, a deserted island would be an ideal place to bury pirate treasure.
Yeah, if they ever did anything actually compellingly piratey other than have a hat. Oh god, I'm gonna get shit for that. That's fine. It's your podcast.
Yeah. Send all complaints to at Australian Prime Minister on Twitter. Don't worry, I'll get it. Trust me.
I just assume that Australia is made of like 3 people that I happen to know from Australia, so that sounds legit.
Yeah, see? What could go wrong?
For those that didn't get the joke, I'm an American.
And that is all the questions that I had, so thank you for indulging me.
Awesome.
Hopefully that's given people a little bit of a deeper insight into your perspective. But before I ruin the show by talking myself for a little while, it's time for everyone's actual favourite part, a word from the sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. I would give hugs, but I'm not really a huggy type. So let's settle for a handshake, shall we? Now, I do have my follow-up review from last episode's enemy of the show and self-proclaimed very tired dad, Raniko, and his suggestion of Back in Time for Dinner. Is this a show that you're familiar with?
No, sorry.
No, that's all right. It's kind of a historical education cooking show, is sort of the best way I can describe it. The conceit of it is that like an entire family has to live as if they were in a particular decade for a week. And it's like, well, you know, in the 50s, everyone ate tripe. So here is your dinner. It's tripe. Deal with it. But like every day they progress a year, so they can get updated technology or what are the trends that are happening at the time. It is kind of interesting to see, like, refrigeration wasn't a thing in Australia until, 1956. So for like 4 days they're eating out of an icebox. As a TV series, I did only watch a few episodes because there are a lot of episodes and I only have so much time. So I did give it my 3-episode test. I would recommend it. I think it is a solid 4 out of 5 series, and I would be excited to go back and watch more. So before we wrap up the final ever episode of Check This Out for this recording session, and fit time that I've made that joke, could you tell the audience where they might find you online and if you have anything to plug?
I have a Twitch channel, which I'm trying to use more, and I totally know what my Twitch username is, and I'm not fluffing for time so that I can check. You can find me at Reading Cookies on Twitch, and you can also find me at my somewhat officially Twitter handle that doesn't have a blue check mark because blue check marks are for losers. I'm just trying to start about right now. Oh, Aaron Reeves Art. I believe you can find me at the same thing on the Instagram and possibly the Snapchats and the TikToks for you young people, because yes, I am just gonna lean into that. I've made that I'm too old for this nonsense.
Yeah, but what's your Angel Fire page? What's your MySpace address?
Sorry, my GeoCities was lost in the great GeoCities no longer exist debacle.
I still feel
My
bad.
Tumblr was lost in the this might have porn on, and it better delete it just to be safe debacle.
Female presenting nipples. God, what? Anyway, on that note, I've been Elle.
I've been Aaron.
And this has been Check This Out, a podcast of media positivity. And remember, you opened this can of worms, now lie in it.